Good evening. You're listening live to the Xtreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob. Alongside me tonight, I have the man from the Midwest himself. That's RDV, one of the biggest Ghostbusters fans of all time. And we're here tonight to talk about, of course, the passing of Mr. Reitman himself, who just passed away recently at the age of 75. A guy that had been involved in a lot of films outside of Ghostbusters, believe it or not, a lot of really good ones. And he's had some different roles in them too. And we're just going to kind of freeform it tonight, talk about some of them and some of the memories we have of him. Because when you start to look at the catalog that he had, there's a lot of really good stuff. So RDV, as people start piling in our chat, start giving us some of their thoughts and memories about some films and things that they like too. One thing I've never really asked you about, honestly, because you're from the great Midwest. I'm down here I'm a Florida man. I'm in Central Florida, just west of Orlando, Florida, in the Pine Hills Palace near Professor Pixel, who's not with us tonight. How did you become such a great Ghostbusters fan?
Well, I was born in '85, so I got into the cartoons, which came around right around '86. So by age 4, '89, I was watching the cartoons, and then a couple years later, I watched the movies. And since then, it just clicked on me. I just couldn't realize, like, out of all the cartoons, that was actually the cartoons, if you watch them, which were helped produced by Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis, based off the movie. And that, I couldn't believe there was a cartoon that actually really was made for kids, but also for young adults. And it wasn't just like, it wasn't like a stupid cartoon. It was actually like legit, was respected whoever watched it. And the great thing, it was based, actually really based off the movie, and it actually was almost felt like a continuation of the movie. There were some hijinks, yes, in there, but the whole I'd say the whole supernatural thing, being able to capture ghosts, the proton packs and stuff, was actually kind of cool idea to me. And then, so when I watched the movie, I for the first time, yeah, I admit, and I mentioned a bunch of boys and girls, for your younger age, the librarian scene, that was freaky.
Right.
The Terry Dogs, not so much. I kind of laugh at that every time I see that. But what's great about the movie, it was even more, because as I got older, I really appreciated, went back and watched the cartoons again. I just recently watched him again for a third time before he passed away, because I was waiting for Afterlife to come out. And I just like, yeah, I don't think I don't ever had anything to do with the actual cartoons, but I know his love for the movie, and him and Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd putting their love into it. It just felt like it was just like almost like extensions. And I love the fact that Reitman was not only was he a great father, but he also put his kid into the second movie, and many people, and I admit the second movie was not one of my favorites, but there are parts there in that movie that was actually really cool. But yeah, it's just one of those properties you fall in love with it. The first movie, the comedy, the idea that these four guys, well, actually, it starts off with the big three: Aykroyd and Bill Murray's character. Aykroyd knows a little bit about what's going on, hot stuff, where Harold Ramis' character is supposed to be like the one who can make it all happen. He can build the equipment and all this stuff. And Bill Murray's there, he's just basically a freeloader to take advantage of it. It's just one of a kind movie. So I mean, that's really, I haven't seen a movie like that that's worked that well. Just everything fell into place. Yeah.
When you, yeah, Ed, he did do a lot of Arnold movies. We're going to get to those. I think the thing that you mentioned about him that comes to mind with Ghostbusters in general is I liked the film, but I'm not going to say I loved it like a lot of people did. But what I definitely recall was there's a lot of excitement and hype leading up to this, and everybody's like just penciled in to see it. And I think something else was coming out around that time too that was really hot. Now I think I was wanting to see that. But the interesting thing about Ghostbusters, and we'll compare and contrast this to some of his earlier films, but I always felt like his films, the humor in it, for the most part, was really harmless, and it's a little self-deprecating in a way, which I'm not always crazy about it. I sometimes like the bitter Chevy Chase cynical kind of style, but it can be a bit
Mhm.
hurtful. But in the 80s, this was the perfect movie at the perfect time. It was a summer hit, I believe. It
Yep.
was like fun, and that's the whole thing. You could feel when you watch it, not guilty about anything, and you definitely felt a sense of camaraderie with the group that you're in, and also while you watch the film. So I wanted to kind of start talking about him from the beginning and kind of go in order with some of the films because several of them you and I have seen. There may be some that you and I haven't. We don't have to touch on all of them for very long, but
Mhm.
one of the things that comes to my mind, and I thought this is an actually very good film, but I'm going to go back to, I think, 1975. He helped produce a film that I enjoyed a lot, and it's called Shivers, and it's David Cronenberg, who does a lot of body horror stuff. But he's spent a lot of time producing and directing, so it's not like he didn't just do one
Yeah.
thing or whatever. And sometimes I mention people like John Carpenter, who I'm a massive fan of, the people that can be kind of like a jack of all trades to just do one thing well. Sometimes you get the right combination and it works. And I think he's one of the rare guys where it does. Because if I just say, oh, he was also involved in Animal House, Heavy Metal, Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, a whole bunch of other things, you're like, yeah, he wasn't a lot. But for him, the first movie that comes to mind that I remember in summer and summer camp going to see was a movie about summer camp, and he was just a director on it. That was Meatballs, the first movie that Bill Murray starred in
Yeah.
1979 there too. And we have not actually covered Meatballs here in the Extreme Movie Show. We keep
We
talking
have.
about it since we're 80s based, but
We have.
we did cover it.
Yeah. With the kid going to camp. Yeah, we covered it.
Okay. Wow. I don't even recall it. But to be
Yeah.
honest with you, at the time as a kid, it was so funny. As an adult, I'm like, it's okay. But it's still fun when you watch it. And the thing about Meatballs and even the follow up 1981 Stripes with the military thing with John Candy, who is really funny,
Hmm.
is like I say, you can watch them and they're not totally mean. They don't make fun at the demise of others, too. So I think starting off, it's really great, and this really hits a peak when in with Ghostbusters in 1984, which he directed and produced. It,
Yeah.
like to your point, it's fun. You saw it when you're young, so I imagine it left a very heavy imprint, like a lot of things when we're younger do. But I still remember the energy coming out for Ghostbusters about it, and it was just exciting to go see a fun film that wasn't mean and just extremely entertaining. Like I can't stress enough, perfect movie for the 80s too.
Well,
Any thoughts on Meatballs or Stripes?
well, no, actually, Meatballs is where we first see Bill Murray, and we see him being kind of a mentoring way, like comedy stuff. And then Stripes, we
Yep.
get to see Harold Ramis and Bill Murray together for the first time, and that was actually kind of interesting because how adult a movie that is. Ghostbusters was not going to be that. It was supposed to be like PG 13, whatever, or PG
Mhm.
compared to Stripes, which was rated R. So people have already seen what they could get with Harold Ramis and that, and then so seeing Harold Ramis always plays like even in Stripes, he was like the
The
calm
straight.
reserved one, yeah, straight face
Yeah.
one, where Bill Murray was the crazy guy, you know. And then continues into this, and then you add throw in the likes of Aykroyd from Saturday Night Live, and then you're throwing in Rick Moranis, and then you're also getting you're getting Ripley, you're getting Sigourney Weaver, you're getting a huge
Yes.
cast going into this. So it's like, and this is
A
what
lot of Canadians.
on here on an Extreme Film Show, we have the Meg test. We put a lot of good actors into a movie, and this movie, actually, I think it survived. It blew away the Meg test. If we had the Meg test back then, it would have been called the Ghostbusters test, which we should have called it. Because
You had
not
your
everybody,
chance.
yeah, not everybody can like make a movie with awesome and A-list actors, and then actually still make it a good movie. You know, so where we joke about the Meg had all that, and then the Meg flopped. It sank.
Yeah.
It didn't swim. It choked on its own water. But yeah, so it was interesting to see. They put everything together, and then it was just a beautiful result. Especially Aykroyd brought a lot to the film credit because he's talking about his grandfather used to see ghosts and all that stuff, So he thought about would it be cool if we could like find a way to capture ghosts, and so Aykroyd is credited with basically putting out the first script. Here we're going with Reitman on that. Reitman taking a chance on him. This is the guy I don't think he's ever worked with before. But he knows Harold Ramis. Harold Ramis also worked on the script too. So yeah. That's that's how that film got its leg. And then said you watch behind the scenes. You watch there's clips online you can watch for before Ghostbusters come out. They didn't know what to call it the movie, so they're calling it different names. And it was interesting to see Bill Murray, this being, hey, we're at the college campus, hey, girls, you want to see a movie? It was like, wow, this was like watching like a SNL skit, like coming out, and it was interesting to see. And like I said, I think Ghostbusters what really blew up his career. Stripes was good, but Ghostbusters I think what launched Ivan Reitman into space pretty much. Because he had a dud with Legal Eagles. At least I think it looks like a dud. It may have done well. We had Twins came out, which was another success. It's all cult classic. Ghostbusters 2 came out. It wasn't as great as the first movie, but it was still drawing some money. Then we got into a lot
still
of
had some of the magic in there.
Yeah. But then we went into the Arnold years. So even more.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about because we have Twins, Kindergarten Cop, and Junior. And Arnold, as I put here in chat, was very smart and proactive about his career. He came to the States not speaking English. Obviously, he got involved in weightlifting. A lot of people will talk about how when he spent 5 years out of not being in the bodybuilding universe and came back and won it in his training for Conan, that it was rigged. And like boxing and other things, it's certainly true. And I'll just leave it at that. He has a very not classic physique because there's an actual term for it, but is this was based on symmetry and proportion, and Arnold was definitely that. And when he got into Conan, which is one of the great action films of all time, it really set a tone because it's John Milius written and directed, and he had nothing but real bodybuilders. It was kind of almost like a pre-template, even though Chuck Norris is already starting to make films of the type of things you and I like to cover, mostly 80s based Canon films and whatnot here on Xtreme Movie Show. So in the mid 80s, Arnold, who was not young at the time, wanted to really kind of transition out of it and add to his repertoire, because you can say what you want about him acting. He worked really, really hard at businesses and real estate and stuff to get over any potential failure he might have. And so I like how Arnold was always very proactive with his career. And going into comedy, you're like, really? But Twins with Danny DeVito, I'm going to say again, it's a movie that it was successful. It was fun. I don't necessarily watch it all like I do about some of the earlier stuff that even Ivan was involved in. Like Animal House was fantastic. I've seen that thousands of times.
Yep.
But Twins is funny and people liked it. Arnold is a likable guy, and so it's a buddy film if you want to talk about it. With, of course, people of different sizes and everything else there too. People are like, hey, this is Arnold. He can be funny instead of just stupid one-liners, right? I don't know. Were you ever a fan of Twins?
Twins, I watched it. I don't really remember as much. I think Danny DeVito just tried to take advantage of him, and that's a lot. That's pretty much. It's been a while since I watched it. I watched when I was younger. Junior is the one I remember the most because that was one of the most disturbing.
Well, before we talk about Junior, we have to talk about Kindergarten Cop. Now, I know you've seen it. We have not covered that, I don't believe.
Yes. You need to put the cookie down. Come on, do it.
Yeah. This was a cute film. It's fun. It's wholesome. It's juvenile enough where a child can watch it, but enough where an adult can go, okay, whatever. And when I'm watching this film, it was like, you're right, 1990, 1991, I'm going, wow, Arnold's really come a long way from where he started as far as Hercules in New York and then Conan and then some other stuff to this. Is it the greatest film? It's no Rocky, but it's not supposed to be, and it's supposed to be that way. And seeing Arnold there with a bunch of kids, it really reminds you of, some people say never work with kids or animals because it'll ruin your career. I don't know about that really. And if you're Arnold and you're trying to branch out into comedy, I like the fact that, okay, he worked with Danny DeVito, physical comedy. Now he's working with kids. It's still comedy, but it's kind of a different setup where it's kind of a pseudo-romantic kind of nice guy-ish thing, which we haven't really seen him do. But I don't know. I think there's some good lines in it, and it's kind of cute. It's not bad, and it's aged well. It's something you could watch today and still be entertained, I think. And any particular memories about Kindergarten Cop?
Kindergarten Cop. Oh my gosh, that cast was they're probably as old as I am now.
True.
Yeah. Looking back at that, Kindergarten Cop. What year was that? 1990. So those kids in there are probably right around my age, or a little younger. Yeah, I said the whole the bad guy is the kid's father, and he wants to kidnap the kid, and Arnold's fall in love with the bad guy's ex-wife, and he can't tell if he has an on and off. I can't remember if he had an on and off relationship with his partner, the cop. But I thought he
Yeah, it's
did.
been a while since I've seen it. Yeah.
But I just remember the whole kid scene, like the kids are just like he's like, shut up, come on, shut up. They're all just screaming around. And you got to see Arnold being Arnold. That's the funniest thing ever. It's like I've never seen Arnold talk that much, but it's probably the most quoted movie that I can think of. When you think of Arnold movies, But because yeah, it was just you putting Arnold like, hey, let's let this guy. He's this big, Austrian, this huge guy, manly man. Let's put him on a movie with a bunch of kids.
Yeah, take away everything that's made him a star, because he's not an ugly guy. He's good looking to me,
but it worked out well.
The language and the physique, you immediately paralyzed it. And what's more dangerous than a bunch of young children that you have no control over taking away that? And the other thing cute about it too is even though there's some interesting situations that he finds himself in, a lot of it's somewhat realistic based. And anybody that's spent time with young children in an educational environment can recognize some of these situations, like when his partner who's supposed to go undercover gets sick and he has to fill in as a substitute what he has to deal with. He hasn't had the horrors of reality school, but with kids, it's true. You got to take charge. You got to do stuff, and you show them do it. And I think he was very earnest in his desire to, despite his mega success for a well over a decade at this point, not just in film, but in other areas, to still have a little bit of energy and enthusiasm, especially with the big blockbusters he did, that, it really comes across there. It seems like he's having fun.
Yeah, his partner was played by Pamela Reed.
Yeah, she was good in it, actually.
Yeah.
She's like the female Harold Ramis, I think, in this film, is the way I would describe it.
Yeah. She was also on Parks and Recreation, and before that, she was on Jericho show.
Unfortunately, I never saw the sequel, Kindergarten Cop 2, which we may have to watch and review because it has Dolph Lundgren in it. But we only have so many movies and so much time, so it's on the long list. I will say this.
But you remember Linda Hunt's in this too as well. Linda Hunt's she's been on a couple of their movies. She was in those. I think she was in the Richard Grieco movie, wasn't she? What's the Kill?
Well, at some point you got 7 degrees of Richard Grieco.
Yeah. So, yeah, she played the principal, and here's a short, intimidating woman coming up to Arnold. He's like over 6 feet, and just kind of put him in his place because he just wants The whole story is kind of a cute story. The whole Kindergarten Cop. Here's this guy, he's a cop going undercover as a kindergarten teacher, so he can keep an eye on the bad guy's kid, because the guy broke the jail, and most people will he loves his kid, so he's going to go after his kid. So Arnold being there, and after a while, Arnold wants to quit. So, but yeah, it's a fun movie.
The movie you really wanted to talk about is the next Arnold movie.
I'm going to talk about all, bro.
Well, Junior. I remember when I saw Junior, went, really? Arnold pregnant? You got to be kidding me. And I thought they kind of overshot things because this is the early to mid 90s. So a lot's changed since the 80s. That optimism and energy and enthusiasm that was around, and you could see it in films, was gone. The music started to suck really, really hard, except for some 80s leftovers and a few artists here and there, of course. But it was just different. Movies were different. TV was different. There was a lot of wussy stuff on television, and it's like, really? This is what's come down to? And then you throw Arnold getting pregnant in here. But again, just like what I was saying about him with Kindergarten Cop, he seems like he's having fun enjoying it. I think he actually does a great job in here. And frankly, for me, I'm a sucker for Franklin Jelly. I think he's a fantastic actor. He's big, he's tall, he's got a great voice. He's stage guy. So he's like a modern day equivalent of a Charlton Heston to me, who's stage trained and has a presence. But that has nothing to do with this film so much, other than he plays the heavy in here to contrast against Arnold, who's pregnant and goes through a lot of things that women do. So it's the sensitive side of Arnold that we're getting used to in here. So what makes Junior film that you find fun?
It was the movie. It was the most weirdest movie I've ever come across. It came out in '94. So the fact that you have this, like I said, you're emasculating this guy. It's like, it just, it's like, and he was pregnant. The first male pregnancy recorded on live camera for the movie. It was disturbing. I'll just say that it was very, very disturbing. Emma Thompson's in here. She plays this genetic scientist who was going to inject herself, but instead, because some people were trying to steal her whole thing, so she injected it into Arnold, almost like inner space. If you think about it, but a bit weird. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it had a happy ending. Arnold does give birth to the baby, but they have to do a C-section. Oh, yeah. In case people are wondering, because it's surprisingly it made more than its budget. Its budget was $60 million. It almost doubled its budget, but it came back with $108 million. So it gained $40 million, then past the budget. They said that it was a weird movie, but it was also Danny DeVito again. It said Danny DeVito being weird. Danny DeVito is always the antagonist character. So that's what I love about him. Whatever movie he's in, he's always a schemer. That's
I never hated him, but I never.
No.
Oh my god, I can't wait to see some Danny DeVito. You know what I mean? I mean, he was known for
like
Taxi for a lot of people.
You know what I think of him? I think of him like being the better. He's what Joe Pesci wants to be. You see Joe Pesci in the movie? Joe Pesci's really trying his hardest to be Danny DeVito, but Danny DeVito's not annoying like Joe Pesci.
I mean, you're coming out swinging tonight, sir. I thought Midwesterners were supposed to be friendly.
we are friendly with our shotguns and our pitchforks. Oh.
Yeah, this is a movie like I mentioned in chat here just now. Another movie, Dave, that doesn't get talked about a lot. This is one that you see it once and you're like, okay, it's pretty good. I don't know if you go, I can't wait to see that again, or I'm in the mood to see Arnold Schwarzenegger pregnant, because people almost won't believe it. And I know recently here with the Super Bowl, if you watched it, maybe it's old man syndrome, but for me, every year the commercials get worse and horrible, and there's very few ones that I've even laughed or popped about. And I knew Arnold was going to be Zeus, and that just made me sad, because I thought, if he dies, people might remember Arnold as, the put the cookie down guy or the pregnant guy. When I go, at his age, in his mid-70s, he could still play Conan, the movie they keep talking about making and never do, where he's like King Conan sitting on his throne, and just do that one last time. And I just think it would be phenomenal. And just as a quick aside here, the only serious time I'll be here, even though we're celebrating, the storied career of director, producer Ivan Reitman here, is that older people don't really get a lot of chances at roles. Men do get that more so than women, which, fair or unfair, just seems to be the cast of it. And I do appreciate the trend of older people wanting to do it and sticking around with it. We've talked about some people who are older now, like William Shatner, who can still act really well. He's got a high energy level at 90, does what he wants to do. Arnold still is active. So make of that what you will. And he's one of those guys, when he goes, you're going to be like, man, he had a lot of movies and he was just fun and he was a likable guy. Whereas there's a lot of people today that are young, good looking, might have a physique, but you go, yeah, they're empty vessels. I don't care about them. And Arnold, pregnant? Are you kidding me? But you can be like, that's Arnold. I want to see that. And that's the genius of it. And Reitman had this great way, like I say, of making things fun, where it was a little self-deprecating, but where it wasn't going to put somebody in a situation where it was really evil or mean. And that's the right way to do it for everybody to kind of have fun with it too. I mean, and you're right about Danny DeVito. He's I don't know about the comparison you made, but I understand it. I'll just say that.
Well, Danny
anything else about Junior?
Well, I'd say if you're an Arnold fan and you kind of want to watch a movie you haven't seen it before, watch that movie, because that movie is better than The Sixth Day.
I don't know about that. Maybe. All right.
Cloning
So,
or Arnold giving birth to a baby. It's a one-time thing. We'll drop it at that.
it'd be nice if you had it natural and he was just in the big bathtub. I keep thinking.
Gross.
So, unfortunately, I think this is a case when we look at the film and the producer credits. For me, more the film. I think Reitman started out really, really strong, and I think his best stuff is early. I think Meatballs is tremendous. Stripes is really funny. Ghostbusters is super hot. We know that. I like heavy metal, but he didn't really direct it. He was just a part of it. And yeah, okay, Ghostbusters 2, like your point, was good, but it wasn't the first one, but it still had the magic. And the Arnold stuff's interesting and fun. But the mid to late 90s and the rest, for the most part, some of them I have not seen because some of the movies here, to me, I'm going to say it straight up, even though we're trying to honor them, suck. I despised 6 Days and 7 Nights. I went, okay, Harrison Ford is officially dead. You know, he did have a little last gasp there when he was the bad guy in the horror movie with Michelle Pfeiffer, whoever whose name I can't remember right off the top of my head.
That's Tom Cruise.
But I did not Tom Cruise. No. Evolution is the film that sticks out for me after Junior. I like it. I think it's underrated. We have not talked about it. Have you seen Evolution? And if so, what do you think?
Evolution gets crapped on for being a bad movie, but Orlando Bloom was pretty funny in it. To me, and you had David Duchovny. Yeah, I want to call him Dana. Too much Scully. No, I thought that was actually Scully. Yeah. That was the first time I actually seen David Duchovny. That was the first time I saw David Duchovny in a movie that he wasn't playing. The truth is out there. I want to believe. It was at this point. Yeah, he had been just casted as Mulder. You couldn't get past that. So Evolution had Sean, and they brought in for comedy relief Sean Scott Williams as well. And you had these firefighters teaming up with this scientist, and they're trying to stop giant bugs. Dan Aykroyd also made an appearance in here as I think he was the governor or the mayor. I can't remember who it was, but I thought it was actually really good. Now, what's his name? Ivan Reitman directed and produced it. Did not write this though. But it's still a solid movie. I think it gets crapped on. Actually, it was actually pretty cool. And this also got a cartoon series based off it as well. That seemed to be the thing. Yeah. This seems to be the thing with some of these movies. They get cartoons. Godzilla, as bad as it was in '96, for those who loved it, it got an animated series in the '90s towards the end there for one season. It's they tried to So these movies didn't do so hot in the theaters. They tried to turn around aiming towards kids, which actually made them a lot better. Men in Black was another one of those movies that was weird because they took that movies, and they did well in the theaters. They turned them into a cartoon, and that did well as well. So the '90s was weird. You got certain movies became cartoons. So anyway, yeah, this was actually David Diamond, David Wiesman, and Don Jacoby were the writers of the screenplay. Reitman directed it though. The large meteor crashes into it crashes into the desert, and we got basically extraterrestrial non-base organisms that condense. They started evoluting within hours. Basically creating a whole tropical place, and all these different creatures. And yeah, it's up to Ira and Harry, who basically are played by David Duchovny and this other person, and I think his girlfriend. I forgot who the girl was. Julianne Moore. At the time, they were both doctors, and it was up to them to solve this. Sean William Scott came up with the lead as the firefighter who wanted to help out, but he's an idiot, and so he just started smashing things, and just doing whatever he does. He did a Stifler routine, He did his, he's like, all right, I can help. Don't worry, I got this, And Ted Levine was in that too, from Silence of the Lambs, Buffalo Bill. That's what he was. He was in this as well.
Shoulders on her, the alien dies.
Like I said, the funny thing is people forget this was a DreamWorks production as well as Columbia.
Well, and it came out at a time where, movies are changing in here in 2000. To your point in your comment about the 90s being weird, there was definitely a major transition from the 70s, which we might call the mature decade of adult films, to
Mhm.
the fun decade of the 80s with a lot of creativity and variety, to a lot of milking the cow in the 90s with no real anything. So what's the lowest common denominator, lowest hanging fruit? It's putting stuff together that's really young, because to your point, this is when DC and Marvel were starting to inch their way into movies a bit more. But over the years, there's of course been TV shows and cartoons, so you're starting to see more of an evolution. I think has that, like Ghostbusters, similar type thing. It's just almost 20 years later, and it's kind of got a lot of similarities to Ghostbusters to me. The two guys in there
Yep.
are supposed to be smart, kinda, but they're not as smart as they really think they should be, especially for their position. Certainly not from people you meet in real life, but it feels like they're like fun buddies, and it's almost like a buddy cop kind of film. And I like that chemistry. And at this time, I had preferred darker stuff like Seven or Millennium to like X Files, which I thought was kind of cool and all that. But to see David Duchovny in it, I thought he did really fine in it. And and all the other side guys, I think are really good too. And to your point that you mentioned earlier, it was a little weird. And at the beginning of the 2000s, we get 9/11 pretty early, and then just it seems like the tone of things changed, and then you get the internet exploding with people reviewing films and also dropping major spoilers about stuff. And to this point, you really had no idea what was going on unless you knew somebody with the film. And I think that kind of took a little while to settle into the 90s, or to the new
Mhm.
decade after the 90s, as far as what's going on. But it's still fun, and I agree with you. It gets crapped on, and it's definitely, I think, an underrated film.
Definitely. Um, this also like well, I guess I think Orlando Jones took up after this. He was doing the Seven Up, drink yours or up or drink Seven Up yours commercials,
Mhm.
and he was funny in this. I still remember when people think of evolution. I think of this. There's also a video game for this too. I forgot about that. Lana Jones was a professor, and they entered into the ecosystem. They got the hazmat suit, and then one mosquito gets into his leg. He punctures the suit, gets in there, and it's caught up his leg. And he's like, don't. He's like, we'll take the leg. He's like, no, don't take my leg. They're like, amputate it off. It's like it's going towards his penis. He's like, take the leg, take the leg. It was just stupid humor, and it was funny. Yeah, he had um he had he had a couple of people in here too. Also, I'm trying to think who else was in. Jan Aykroyd was the governor. Yeah, I think about that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. You had Stephanie Hodge, who was known for roles. She was in the nurse. She was Nurse Sandy Miller in Nurses. And also she was also Jenny Malloy on the Unhappily Ever, which went from 95 to 1998. Another, so I said, the 90s had some weird shows and movies, but the big names, yes, was going to be Ted Levine, yes, but you wouldn't recognize him unless you knew Buffalo Bill. David Duchovny, Julianne Moore, Atlanta Jones, and Sean William Scott. Like I said, it did feel like Ghostbusters. I wonder, I almost thought back in the day that maybe Dan Aykroyd actually helped with the script, because you had some, like, there even was some creatures in that looked kind of like a Slimer or something like that.
Right.
So it was a fun movie. Like I said, you could probably turn your head off. You don't need to look for logic to like, oh, this looks stupid. What's meant to be stupid? It's a comedy.
Well, it's a tone, I think, and
Yeah,
and you can set a tone, you can have a scene, but it's a chemistry that sticks with it, and that's what we liked about the original Ghostbusters. And despite what we may think of the Ghostbusters 2 in '89 or '90, whenever it came out, it was still there. It's just, I think that's why people were disappointed with the female reboot. It was not necessarily because it was female, although that may be a case for some people. I think it's a chemistry thing, and it's not the same kind of humor.
well,
It's not the same kind of fun. And when they're doing a lot of stuff
we'll
that the
we'll
older
get
films
there when we
have,
get there to the.
it's not that good.
We'll get there when we get there. I think the biggest complaint I've heard about this movie was, I think it was E that didn't like this movie. If I think about it, don't quote me on that. But yeah,
I will.
yeah,
But there were
people
several duds before we get there. I'll just throw out
yeah.
there, because, like I say, a gut punch with 6 Days, 7 Nights. But then, like, I think he loved my super ex-girlfriend, and then No Strings Attached. I'm going,
I didn't mind
okay.
6 Days, 7 Nights. I don't say it was a great movie, a big
Oh,
success movie, but it was all right.
I don't know. I'd
I'm
give it up
going
at
back.
this
I'm
point,
going back.
although I've not seen Draft Day.
I'm going back and looking at it, remembering everything about it. It actually was a decent movie. It wasn't above average. It was right around average. For Harrison Ford, you could have got better in the 80s. You have to Freedom Was in Danger and The Witness and all stuff. This was actually still kind of decent. Now you look at today's stuff, you're gonna want to watch this compared to what's going on today.
That's true.
Yeah. The next movie, after Evolution was My Super Ex-Girlfriend, which he directed to that, and that was kind of dumb. That and Luke Wilson and his ex-girlfriend,
Enough.
Uma
It's
Thurman.
pretty dumb.
Yes. It was the scene in there. They're having sex in the bed. And the bed breaks. It was
that's funny.
It was all right. I forgot Wanda Sykes was in there too. But it was all right movie. It's not the best. I cringe every time I see it. I saw it once, and that's enough for me. So if you want to watch a movie, watch it once. Watch it with friends, and then tell them that you picked out the movie, and then get back to me. The next movie after this was No Strings Attached that he did direct. He also made a cameo in this as well. He was there was a director, and I guess he put a director part in there where he was high. So that was This was I keep getting No Strings Attached. I thought that was Jake Gyllenhaal. This isn't. This is the other one with Ashton Kutcher and Natalie Portman. About two best friends who decided to just have no strings attached relationship and end up falling in love. So,
because that's how it works.
That's how it works. Movies that he did produce before this: Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
We're gonna be doing that one at some point.
Stallone, man. Mom, don't cut this. Heavy Metal, fantastic movie. If you have never seen this from 1981, you need to go look up. Leonard Mogul was the other producer on that, who also was the publisher of the Heavy magazine. So you got a really, really good movie. We already talked about Animal House, Space Jam. Ivan Reitman helped produce this. Well, the only Space Jam you need to see with the one with Michael Jordan. If you're not watching this one.
Hated Space. It was not a fan of Space Jam.
Oh my gosh, it was okay, and we got Bill Murray in it too. That's when I discovered they actually wear hats. They're umbrella hats when you want to go call. What else? Private Parts, which was like okay. It was kind of a boring movie to me. But Post Grad, I never. And Alexis Bledel, yep, that's 2009 comedy. Up in the Air.
All right, let's do this.
And Chloe.
Let's talk about the last Ghostbusters and the whole passing on and everything.
Sir, that movie does not exist. I don't know what you're talking about.
Not the female one.
Oh,
Afterlife.
I don't know. I don't know. I've never heard of the 2016 one. Actually, I never watched it.
Me either.
I let it be.
I'm gonna be honest because I've never told you my thoughts because I only recently watched Ghostbusters Afterlife. I'll say, do you want me to say the positive things first or the negative?
Well, it depends. How big is your negative? Did it ruin the movie for you?
I will say this. I think positively speaking about the last Ghostbusters, I like the fact that it was like kept in a family in a way, because I think you can do that. You know that here on the Xtreme Movie Show, Professor Pixel and I, in addition to our Twin Peaks weekly drops, we're in season 3 right now, which also has a very early David Duchovny in there as a cross-dresser. Check that out. That's pretty funny. And he does great in it. I'm a huge James Bond fan, and Professor Pooks and I also review James Bond about once a month. We're dropping the next James Bond film, which will be Roger Moore's first, Live and Let Die, so be looking for that. I will say that over the years, the Bond movies have changed, but for the most part, they had kept it in family. And it's like sports teams and franchises. When you keep it in family, typically the culture around it can have the opportunity, for the most part, to stay, or at least some of the things that made it successful. And that doesn't guarantee the handoff. So I'm saying a lot of stuff here because I didn't think Ghostbusters Afterlife was a great film. I found it was kind of middling. It looked fantastic. It was great. It was hypnotic to watch. I kind of liked the story, believe it or not. It reminded me of a cross of the first two Ghostbusters films. What killed it for me, in all honesty, one, I didn't care for the mom, but the kids were not bad, but they weren't good either. They lacked what I thought made the first movie fun, and what we've talked about here all night, celebrating, the passing of Ivan Reitman here, and that's the chemistry. They just threw a bunch of kids in there, and that's what it felt like to me. And I'm not saying what they did or anything else was bad, but I was almost falling asleep until in Walmart, the Stay Puft came out, and I thought this is the kind of stuff they should be doing a bit more to kind of do the nostalgia thing and all that, not just some cute, let me pop myself shots or whatever. That unless you're a hardcore fan, you're not going to know. But I didn't think it was awful. I wanted more, and I felt like it was there, and I thought, guys, go back, reshoot a few scenes, add a few touches here and there. And
Mhm.
you and I, for a couple years before COVID, were really hot on the trailer and what it looked like. And I don't know if it's one of those things where, like Sean McVay, Super Bowl winning coach of the Rams here recently, I had them 30-17 winning big, and whatever you say about it, he was a Redskin guy, so I'm personally vested. But he made a comment that I thought was interesting, and it applies to this Ghostbusters Afterlife, and it's this. He said, I had 2 weeks to prepare the first time I was in a Super Bowl, and we didn't really plan well. He goes, I take total blame and responsibility for it. He goes, I planned too much. I thought about it too much. And I feel like that's what happened in this recent film. It looks so stunning. It's great. It's got some killer vibes. I don't really care about the people at the end as a handoff or whatever, but there's just something about it that was missing. And I go back to the chemistry. I want to like these characters. They haven't given me a lot of reasons to hate them, so I don't dislike them, but that
Yeah.
punch, that extra level's not there. So I'm not going to hate on it, but I just found it a little bit lacking. And again, I'm not shitting on it because you're a huge fan of Ghostbusters, but it makes me want to go with everything we've talked about. What did you think about it?
The thing that I can say, so Ghostbusters, I thought this actually was a lot better than I thought it was. I was like, man, this isn't back to 2016 when I saw the trailer, but I was like, all right, it's gonna be Ghostbusters, juniors, or junior Ghostbusters. And I was really worried about that. And when I watched it actually turned out really well, mainly because McKenna Grace's character, Phoebe, playing Egon's granddaughter, she was a spot on Harold Ramis, Egon. The way they even did the hair, the glasses. She even had the same glasses on. And I love the fact that they even this is well done. They actually there's so many spoilers about the movie because in case you haven't seen this, I really tell you right now, stop watching, go watch the movie. So I'm going to spoil the heck out of it. And it's been off for a while. But there's a scene. It starts off with basically you see this guy walking. He's blasting it in this cannon. He's being chased by this spirit and stuff. He gets in there and goes to nonstop. You find out later that the person that got attacked at his little dirt farm, as you call it, was actually Egon Spengler. So Egon Spengler died. So throughout the movie, when they inherit the film, because basically the daughter, who throughout the film hated her father, they just created this character out of the blue, or I don't know, something. I don't know when she was, because Harold Ramis did have a daughter that actually was on set and stuff. So, but in the movie, Egon never had kids. They even lived it from the first movie. Like most people loved the fact that Janine had a crush on him, and Egon was kind of like this. Like people shipped those two characters. Yeah. But in the second movie, Harold Ramis didn't like it, so they went away. That's why you saw her making all the Rick Moranis, Annie Potts' character. So obviously they brought back that connection from a lot of the fans, and you see that when they go the daughter Becky Kuhn or whatever it is, I can't remember what her name is, Carrie Coon, takes her two children, after basically leaving her ex, and then they go to because she's basically broke. They inherit the farm. They think there's gonna be money there, fix it up. As they're there, you see a connection with Harold Ramis's character actually as a ghost. You don't see him at first, but you see, and it draws the whole connection with McKenna Grace's character. She finds the secret compartment in the floor, finds a ghost trap, But that's what leads to them causing the problem because she leads to one of the terror dogs. And you get to learn more about the Ivan Spank or what's his name?
Egon
Ivan
Spangler.
Not Egon, no, not that's not Spangler. It was the other one.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it drives me now. It drives me
It's
up the
okay.
wall. Ivan Chandler, I think it is. Was the guy who was trying to channel Gozer in the first film.
Okay. You learn more about him.
Yeah. Ivan Shandor. Yeah, they're basically he captured a ghost from Ivan Shandor's mind. And oh my gosh, this movie was actually, I said, I enjoyed it. There was such a kind connection. There only was one character that really, really just irritated the heck out of me, and that was the kid called Podcast. Him trying to make the forced humor with him, and then it's just so weird stuff. And then there's a scene in there where you see her. She puts the proton pack together as Egon's ghost, helps her. At this point, you don't really know if it's grandfather at first, until later in the movie. You kind of get the idea, like, yeah, that's wow, they're really doing this. And that as a person who's a fan of the first movie and loves Harold Ramis, as an actor instead of the person, I was like, oh, please don't do this. You're gonna ruin it. Don't do this. It turned out to be at the end very well. When you see his ghost line up next to the guys.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up. I hated it.
Oh my gosh, I loved it.
Stand it.
I loved it. It was done well.
I'm not going to argue with you that it wasn't done well. And you know what?
Well.
If his estate is okay with it, I can't be mad at them. Whether it's money or not or whatever, or just nostalgia, because he's a likable guy, and he's not what I would call an actor. He's somebody who acts, but he also writes and directs and produces. And Harold Ramis has been involved in a lot of stuff. We haven't even talked about all the awesome stuff that he's done from his perspective, right? There's definitely some crossover from tonight. I don't like seeing people when they're dead show up, and that is.
It makes sense for this movie because for what it is.
I agree.
I
agree, but I just didn't like it. It felt forced to me, just like Podcast.
Podcast was more forced. Finn was an idiot. His character, he was supposed to be like the grandson of Peter.
My name is Finn Wolfhard. I always look awkward, but I cash those big checks.
So I almost felt we're getting like a stranger vibe singing first. So I was like, no. And whenever they go with him, he's like trying to hit on the girl who basically had no interest in whatsoever at the diner. I forgot who what the actress's name is. I think was it Celeste O'Connor, aka Lucky Domingo? Was that her name? I can't remember. But yeah. There were some slow parts in the movie, but I said that for what it was, and I thought they did it pretty well. Now the movie I would have had if Harold Ramis had died and Bill Murray wouldn't have been such a dick. We could have actually team up another movie with all four Ghostbusters. But I thought it wrapped up nicely, and even the mom who hated her dad because he ignored her and just left her, was never around because he was working.
Yeah.
So she was upset.
This definitely has some 21st century thoughts going on with the way they chose what characters they had.
But no, it was actually really well. You know the biggest complaint I could hear about from everybody? Didn't like the Walmart scene. It was not needed. I thought it was pretty well because I was like, oh my gosh, they're doing this again? Paul Rudd being possessed. And they changed it around. He's Sigourney Weaver's character in the movie where where the mom of the kids is Rick Moranis. She's the gatekeeper and he's the keymaster.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
I think the goal is what are they trying to do in a film? Are they trying to honor everything? Because the nostalgia is going to be there and they can program it. But what are they trying to set up? Obviously, the way Hollywood is and how devoid they are of anything remotely creative these days, for at least a generation of the young generation that only knows nostalgia based on that's what's being programmed with reboots and everything, and the quality is really declining. I think they're obviously setting up for the kids' version of it, or leaving it open, and that's not a dumb thing to do. Certainly, it makes complete business sense. But it goes back to what you and I have always talked about, whether it's the French Connection, whether it's Rocky, or anything else there too. Whether you like them or don't, you have a distinctive character that you understand, that you get to know, and if it's a case like Rocky where you appreciate it and you rally around it, versus somebody you go, oh, that's just a really great bad guy. I hate him, but he's a real pro like Apollo Creed. It helps make a movie memorable, and I think in this day and age, that's lost on everybody. It's, well, we got to have the single mom story. We got to have the male failing to flirt with the female. We got to have girl power and all these kinds of things. And I really don't like to discuss those things in film, but they're so prevalent that even in a movie that's made kind of like for kids and teenagers, like I say, I didn't like it nearly as much as you did. I thought it was okay, but it was just missing something. Starved, Ed had mentioned earlier, which I thought was a great way of describing some things. And I do believe they'll do another Ghostbusters film, and now that the family
actually,
still has
I wanted to
maintained
bring that
control
up.
of it.
There actually was another one in works. And we're doing more Ghostbuster stuff. I don't know if they're going to do a TV series or a movie. Let me look back up. If you look under Ghostbuster Active Force TV series, he was executive producer. Ivan Reitman was, as announced. And there's also, they were going to do a Stripes TV series. All these and all the announced projects, Triplets, which is in pre-production. So there's all these different, and there's another Untitled animated Ghostbusters project that was announced. He used to be the producer of. So they're bringing all this stuff back. They're gonna do a lot more Ghostbusters, a lot more of his movies, and yeah, it sucks that he's not around. But maybe they can get his son can because his son did most of the work for this movie. It was a love letter to his dad, even though his dad come on and did stuff.
It is a bit of a touching movie, I will say that. Despite me nitpicking it too, you do get an emotional feel from it too, especially if you're a fan of the franchise. I would agree with you on that. He did not fail on that. Hopefully, he can keep that up and refine
and like I
it
said, if it's not the movie we wanted, because a lot of us would have rather had Harold Ramis come back, and reprise the role.
Yeah.
Like I said, I bring up that movie it's supposed to be Ghostbusters Hellbent. That was the script that Dan Aykroyd wrote back in the '90s after Ghostbusters 2, but it's where they go to hell version of Manhattan. It's called Manhattan. But Bill Murray didn't want to do it though. Yeah, so and then eventually they were also talking about there was going to be a reboot with the guys, the younger version. They're going to have Chris Farley on there, and Ben Stiller, and I forgot who else was supposed to be in it too. They're talking about
Just no.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go at yeah. Chris Rock was the other one, but I told for it, they can't push a sequel that Murray, who dislikes sequels, was under the project. So that's why they did the game Ghostbusters, the video game, which what's basically the script. Ghostbusters Hellbent went into the video game for Ghostbusters, which came out in 2009, and then they re-released it, I guess, in 2019, 10 years later, for the 10-year anniversary. And if you want to play the official third game, which will be the third movie before all this, Afterlife, go play the video game, because you'll get the full cast comes back, everybody, even Peck, even the mayor, Bill Murray's brother, their life. So you had everyone come back, and then you got to see more stuff, the lore and stuff. So I recommend that. But yeah,
well, I'm glad that he got to be around and get this handed off to his son, because, like I say tonight, we wanted to talk about Ivan Reitman and his stuff, and just touch on it. A lot of times when we see somebody that we really, really liked, we like to pay our respects in a way with a rip video, I like to call it. And we don't do it all the time, and it's been a while. And unfortunately, I think we're going to have a lot more to be doing over the next couple of years here on the Xtreme Movie Show. But this guy definitely has had his hands in the stuff. The way people come out and talk about him, of course, never talk ill of the dead, but a lot of people really were praising about what a good human being he was. And for some reason, you starting off kind of with that similar kind of tone, I think is the message we said here tonight. Here's a guy that's produced a lot of stuff. Some of it's hit or miss, but a lot of it's really, really good. It's harmless. It's fun. Some of it's very rewatchable. It makes you laugh still, especially like Animal House and some older things, and even newer stuff. But for those that are Ghostbusters fans only and know him from that, you're really doing yourself a disservice if you don't take the time and effort I think to check out some of the other material he's got. Whether you like Arnold or hate him, there's other stuff there too. And if you want that essence, check out his catalog and see what it is. More hits than misses, and that's a good thing too. Any final thoughts from you, Venkman?
Final thoughts. Well, like I said right now, that's where I got my name from. Real Dr. Venkman is actually because I like to be a hardcore fan of character created by not Rob Reitman, Ivan Reitman. Just noticed that trying to cash in, trying to get part of the family. Yeah. this is, I said, Ivan Reitman is probably one of those producers, directors, and father figures, and just writers. It's one of those guys. It's going to be well missed from this. Sadly, this is the case with a lot of what's going on now. Everyone I think about that was writing all the good movies back in the 80s and the 70s, they're gone. We'll be seeing the next 20 years. If we're lucky, we'll get 20 more years out of these guys. I mean, they're in their 70s. 70s is a scary time because you never your health can go just like that. You know, yeah. Final thoughts. Go check out Ghostbusters if you've never seen it. Watch Ghostbusters 2. Play the video game. Watch Ghostbusters Afterlife and watch Evolution. Great movie.
Maybe we'll be covering that here sooner than we thought. Maybe that's moved up on our list here to the stock's at the buy zone here. We're watching it on the daily RSI to find the ultimate price there for the asymmetrical upside of comedy, as it were, because I used that analogy earlier on in our description. So yeah, check them out, guys. I agree with you.
I'm just gonna say this. Come on, do it. Come on. What are you waiting for? Come on. Do it.
Put the cookie down and watch the film. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Just a brief off-the-cuff discussion about Ivan Reitman and his films that he was involved into. It's just a lot of great comedy gems in there. Comedy, like the action we like from 80s films, classic, really hard to find these days too, but that's what we keep searching for on the Xtreme Movie Show. And definitely, if you can think of comedy, Ivan Reitman and his films definitely come to the top. And he was successful not just one franchise with Ghostbusters, or not just with one big actor and Arnold doing something totally against type, but with a bunch of Canadian guys that they grew up with too, that has a huge tree and a much bigger one than most people think, which I'm sure we'll explore a little bit further here in the weeks and years to come on the Xtreme Movie Show. Like, RDV, you got to watch Moneyball, even if you're not into sports. It's good.
Is it an Ivan Reitman film?
No.
Then I don't care. This is Ivan Reitman
and you suck. Okay, and not being from West Florida, man, I can do that, right? Because I got my gator here. I'm going to sick on you. Well, once it thaws out up there, I'm going to have them go up there and eat your Ghostbusters.
I'd rather watch Rollerball.
That's just not funny. So Nicole, thanks for showing up here tonight. I know RDV's being his snarky self because he just got up from his afternoon nap here too, and I'm out of tea and coffee, so I'm going to pour me a cup and enjoy it.
I know.
Robbie hungry is what I like to say. Sunday night, ladies and gentlemen, we had it off with the Super Bowl. Be expecting us to cover the next Rocky movie in our franchise review, and that would be Rocky 3, Eye of the Tiger. All that kind of crap. Huge drop off in quality, but massively entertaining, especially by 80 standards. And that's going to be a lot of fun. And Professor Pix will be here with us on that. Have a good night, everybody. Take care. And as always, stay extreme. Stay real extreme for you Ghostbusters fans. Good night.